All right. We'll give everyone a chance to get settled in and get everything kind of connected here and get the audio set up. And we'll just give it a second, then we'll go ahead and get started.
All right. So I'm going to just give a few rules of the road to get us started before Davidson crew takes over. So welcome to the virtual college exploration by PACAC, Keystone Exploration. You are muted and your cameras are off, but you can still participate with the Q&A. Please type any questions that you have for any of the panelists into the Q&A at the bottom bar of your screen, and they'll be happy to get to the questions. Also, thank you for signing up for this session. There's many more sessions available from different institutions, but also from groups of colleges or on certain topics. So be sure to explore on pacac.org the list of things still available. Plus, this will be recorded and will be on pacac.org/virtual, where you can listen to it again or listen to recordings of other sessions. With all that said, I'm now going to turn it over to Mike Mansway, Abby Vidmar, and Zoe Bach, who are going to tell us about Davidson College. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So my name is Mike Mansway. I am Associate Dean of Admission at Davidson, and I am also the admission counselor who works with all of our students applying from the eastern half of Pennsylvania. So for some of you, I will be the one who reads your application. So hi, nice to meet you, so to speak. I'm joined by a couple of my colleagues here tonight, and I'll let them introduce themselves in a moment. The plan that I think we're gonna go with here is we've got about 45 minutes. I think that time's gonna go by pretty quickly. I'm gonna let my colleagues give kind of a quick overview of Davidson, about 15-20 minutes, hitting on some of what we would think it to be the highlights for the school and the student experience here, and then really open it up to your questions. And we want this time to be as helpful and useful for you all as possible. So please use the Q&A to ask questions. We'll get to as many of them as we can, but we want to leave a good chunk of time for your questions. So about a 15-20 minute overview, and then diving into your specific questions. So with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Abby.
Hi, I'm Abby Vidmer. I'm an admission counselor in the office. I cover Western Pennsylvania, so the other half, Mike and I split it. So for those from the West, I would be the one working with you and potentially reading your application. I'm really excited to be joined by one of our students this evening, Zoe. So I'll let her introduce herself and then we'll get started with the overview.
Hi everyone, my name is Zoe Bach. I'm a junior at Davidson from Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, so outside of Philadelphia, maybe near some of you. I'm a sociology major and a Hispanic studies minor. And on campus, I'm involved as a tour guide. I volunteer weekly to teach Spanish to third graders at our local elementary school. And we've been continuing that virtually, which is really fun, kind of chaotic, but really fun with the third graders. And I helped to co-found Humans of Davidson College Instagram page. I'm a member of Warner Hall Eating House, and I've been involved in some voice and theater stuff at Davidson as well. Super excited to be here tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Zoe. So just to quickly establish a sense of place to get us started and ground ourselves. So Davidson College, located in Davidson, North Carolina, which is about 20 miles north of Charlotte. The town of Davidson is really a quaint college town with brick sidewalks, little shops, restaurants. The college was there first, and the town kind of grew up around it. And so, as Zoe alluded to, there's a really close relationship between the college and the students and the community members. So like her, I have students that are working with children in the community and teaching them Spanish, but the people in the community also support our students and attend their athletic events and performances. So just to ground ourselves a little bit and where we are. As far as kind of demographics and academics, we're about 2,000 students in size, all undergraduates. So you can probably infer small class sizes. So we have about 14 students on average in a class at Davidson. We cap that at 35 students. So you won't see any large lecture style classes at Davidson. That's as big as they get, even in introductory level courses, and a minimum of 3. Also, we have a very close relationship with our faculty members. So 3/4 of our faculty actually live walking distance from campus. They've really chosen Davidson intentionally because they want to work with and mentor undergraduate students. And we are a liberal arts college, so we really encourage students to explore and find connections between disciplines when they arrive at Davidson. So maybe some of you have some idea of what you'd like to study in college, which is awesome. Those of you who have no idea, that's also wonderful. We definitely encourage students to explore when they arrive as a first-year student. We have a holistic advisor who kind of guides you through that initial course selection and mentors you before you formally declare in spring of sophomore year. I'm going to pause there for a moment and see if Zoe, you wanted to touch on anything, on academics, your major.
Yes, so I love that you emphasized how small class sizes are. I love to share how discussion-based my classes have been since day one, even as a first year. And first years can be in classes with people of any class year, which is great too. And I really learned so much from my peers in my classes. Davidson is definitely a school where people participate in the classroom. So if you like to do that, it's a good place for you. And this goes not just for, I have been in more social sciences, humanities classes, but STEM classes will be hands-on from the start as well, with labs and group work and things like that, which is really nice as well. So yeah, that's kind of what I'd highlight. I'd also say in terms of majors, you don't have to declare until the end of your sophomore year, and I didn't declare until towards the end of my sophomore year, and that is perfectly okay. I know so many people who came in thinking they wanted to do one thing and then took a course that totally changed their mindset, or like me, came in kind of unsure and got to test out classes in a lot of different departments and academic areas to kind of settle on the right choice for us. So that's been a really nice exploratory opportunity. And I'm also still taking classes in many departments, even though I have declared my major. So that's really nice as well.
Oh, thank you so much. And students, have, as you heard, different combinations that they can do. So many of our students will double major, major, minor. We also have pre-professional programs at Davidson. So pre-med, pre-law, and an engineering type option. So just something to tuck away as well. One thing that really is at the center of Davidson and the community and culture is our honor code, and that's definitely something that we want to share in our time together. So at Davidson, we have an honor code. Maybe some of you have some type of honor code or code of conduct at your school right now. At Davidson, it really is this living, breathing thing where students sign the honor code the night before classes start as a first-year student. Their signatures are framed in an academic building all 4 years. And it basically states, "I will not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate others who do so." And it gives our students some academic freedoms. A lot of the time, their exams will be take-home exams where professors really trust them to not collaborate and allow them to really show their knowledge and remove that kind of test anxiety type setting. So you can take that in your dorm room, in a quiet place in the library. Maybe you have a lucky classroom where you take your exams the time of day as well. I'm more of a morning person. That's when I would choose to take mine. And then, socially on campus, students can really trust that no one is going to steal. This is where I do want to turn it over to our student to share that this is really a real thing on campus. So Zoe, if you want to illustrate that quickly, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah. So the honor code allows us to just really trust one another, like Abby was saying. And so I can leave my stuff in the library for honestly hours if I wanted to while I go grab dinner, or if I have a meeting and I just want to take one thing with me. Today I had lunch outside of the Union and I had all my stuff there, and I wanted to run to our coffee shop to get an iced chai before my class. So I went and did that and then came back, my stuff was still there. So that's really nice. Also, I know Facebook is phasing out, but we do have a Facebook group where people will post like lost dollar bill, lost earring, things like that, really looking out for each other, which is really nice. So definitely real in practice on campus.
Thank you so much. And that's upheld by our students. So it's not, the administration forcing this honor code on our students. It's a group of students on an honor council that are all holding each other up to that high standard. So just a reminder, we're a community built on trust at Davidson. Also, outside of the classroom, we're a residential campus. So students typically live on campus all 4 years. There's great care in the roommate matching process. It's more of that residence hall type setup in your first year. And then as you progress through Davidson, upperclassmen often live, in apartment style housing. And so there's a kitchen and a common area. You have your own private bedroom, but get that taste of independence while still being on campus. We are also a Division I athletic institution. Something to note here, about a quarter of each class are Division I athletes. We have 21 varsity level sports, compete in the Atlantic 10 Conference. If you enjoy athletics but are not at the Division I level, there's no problem there. We have club athletics where you're competing against other schools in the area, club teams, and then we have intramurals, which is more for fun and bragging rights and a t-shirt. The student life element could take on a life of its own, so I'll pause there for a minute and see if Zoe has anything to kind of quickly add about campus life outside of the classroom.
Yeah, just to add on to residence life really fast, I had such a great experience. Actually, my freshman year was great too, but my sophomore year, I met so many of my absolute closest friends now who are on my hall, Third Centel, great hall. And so that was just really special. We would walk into each other's rooms. We'd have nights in the lounge where we'd watch The Bachelor or different things that were on TV. We did like a holiday gift exchange. So just really great hall community, which was awesome. In terms of student life in general, there's plenty to do outside of the classroom, and every Davidson student is doing stuff outside of the classroom. We're a bit notorious for being busy, but it's a lot of fun. There are tons of clubs and organizations that you can be a part of that I've loved doing. SIDES, which is the Spanish and Davidson Elementary School, is something I've really loved being a part of. And we meet weekly. I'm also on a planning committee for it now, which is actually grant funded. So I'm getting some money for being a part of that, which wasn't even part of the original plan, but that's been amazing because Davidson really wants to support work that students are doing, especially in the community. And so that's been fantastic. But again, so many opportunities. I actually went to a PE class tonight. We've been having them really safely outside, distance. It was cardio dance, one of the absolute best workout classes I've ever done. Went with a bunch of my friends. It's like just such a fun energy release on this Tuesday night, which is great. And yeah, there's also, I really like to highlight Union Board. They're a student organization that puts on a lot of events for students throughout the year. I think it's Wednesdays through Sundays that they'll have nightly things planned. Every Wednesday they have trivia, which is really popular, and you can sign up with the team. I've also done a bunch of like DIY events that always have free food, which is great. And these have like just supplies provided for you to have fun with your friends. So I've done like a pumpkin painting, a mason jar, crafting something. So yeah, lots of fun opportunities for students outside of the classroom for sure.
Awesome, thank you so much. And additionally, outside of the classroom, study abroad is very popular at Davidson. I know a lot of prospective students are excited about that as well. About 80% of students study abroad or have some type of international travel experience before they graduate at Davidson. So all financial aid travels with them abroad as well. So whatever a student qualifies for at Davidson, it's the same abroad. Students can do a formal study abroad program. We have 10 Davidson specific programs where you're traveling with Davidson students and professors, but we partner with over 150 other colleges and universities and work seamlessly with their programs. If there's something that you're really excited to study and want to pursue that's not on that list, you can petition to have that added. And so we had a student in years past want to study marine biology in Samoa and was able to petition to have that added. Also outside of the classroom, research opportunities are very plentiful. That close relationship with faculty that we spoke about earlier really allows students to get exposure to that as early as their freshman year. Given that we're all undergraduates, you're not waiting behind a line of grad students to get those opportunities. It's really a matter of raising your hand and showing enthusiasm. Anything, Zoe, there? I know we're getting close to our 15-minute mark, but I would love to hear some of your experiences there.
Yeah. Well, on research, really quickly, one of my roommates was just published. She's a co-author on a paper for chem research she did the summer after her first year here. So that was really early on in her experience, and that's really exciting that she was a part of. I'm also in a sociology methods class right now, and I was struggling to come up with an idea for my research. And so the professor, who I had never met before, this was like week 2 into the semester, was like, oh, I'm doing some research involving my family and some letters. Do you want to help me with it for your project? And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a great offer. And so I agreed to do it. And I don't know how far it might go at this point, but he's mentioned it could turn into potentially something I did for a thesis. I could potentially travel with him for it. So it's part of a bigger project that he really just invited me into because he was like, I trust you, you're a Davidson student, you're a sociology major, even though I hadn't met him. So that was really cool. And still as a junior to have that opportunity just offered to me was amazing. In terms of study abroad, I unfortunately was supposed to study abroad this semester in Valencia, Spain. And I'm happy, honestly, with the time we lost last semester to be back with my friend on campus. But I was really looking forward to that. And I've heard so many wonderful things about study abroad from upperclassmen who have gone, or my peers who have gone for a summer or something like that. So yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, that's a great perspective too. And as far as, she mentioned as well, international travel can coincide with research and all types of combinations. So some of your classes at Davidson, may take you abroad. Another thing to mention, there are a lot of interdisciplinary type courses that combine that professors from 2 different departments will collaborate and make a course. And so one student in our office last year went to Ireland over spring break with a political science and education class. And kind of lastly, before we open it up to questions, do want to talk about careers and life after Davidson. Our students are very prepared for the real world with that liberal arts background that we're giving them. So once they go into the real world, Davidson students are able to look at things from different angles to problem solve. And so looking at something through the lens of a scientist, a sociologist, a philosopher, an artist, and they're just really nimble in their problem solving. Our Career Center works with students very early on in their undergraduate experience, and so as early as your first year, students are having job shadow experiences, internships. I see the weekly digest even right now, during the pandemic, and it just looks a little bit different. So many students had remote internships, doing mock interviews at crazy hours over the summer, around their jobs. So there's a lot of support in place, and definitely not something that until you're an upperclassman, you don't walk in there. In fact, they'll hunt you down if they haven't seen you come through. And that's definitely a place where we also like to plug our Davidson alumni. So alumni of the college love where they went to school and are proud of it, but they really want to pay it forward to our students and support them. And so we have one of the highest alumni giving rates in the country. And so Davidson alums will come and recruit on campus, bring their employers. We have different job fairs and the law school fair every fall. So there are a lot of different opportunities in place. Also our proximity to Charlotte, that's actually where I'm sitting and live, 30 minutes down the road, is a city that used to be known as the banking city, but now there are so many opportunities with healthcare, technology, consulting. And so students are able to have those experiences right up the road during the semester while they're at Davidson. Anything, Zoe, to add on any of that?
I would just say I definitely have interacted with the Center for Career Development. Second to Charlotte, our biggest alumni network, I believe, is in Washington, D.C. And so the summer after my first year, I did 2 job shadows there, which were awesome and really formative for me in kind of figuring out what I might want to do post-grad. I shadowed one alum who worked at the Aspen Institute, which was really cool, and another who worked at a PR firm. And that was just a great opportunity. And help me know that, or think that I would like to be in DC post-grad, and kind of figure out different options. And they were super welcoming and answered my questions, and really gracious hosts, which.
So I think that's a lot of stuff that's just been thrown at you all over the last 20 minutes or so. So like we said, we want to give you an opportunity to ask your questions. There's certainly a lot more that we could continue to talk about with Davidson, but we want you to help us direct that. As you start to think of those questions, start to put them in the Q&A. I'm going to pose one last question to Zoe to kind of wrap up the overview section here, which is, what was your why Davidson? So when you were a senior in high school and you were looking at different options and different schools, what made you ultimately decide that Davidson was the place that you wanted to be for the next 4 years?
Yeah, great question. So I, there were a lot of things about Davidson that I really liked when I first visited. And so it kind of stayed on my list. And then I realized, oh wait, there are really a lot of things I like about this place. It's definitely one of my top schools. One of those main things was the honor code for me, for sure. And so I was actually able to do an overnight visit my senior year, which I know isn't a possibility in person right now, but really just that further interaction with students and faculty on campus is what kind of sealed the deal for me. Feeling the campus community, everyone was really kind and welcoming. I got to sit in on a class. I met with a Hispanic Studies professor who I've since had at Davidson and runs this sides program I do. When I came to Davidson, she remembered me from this visit my senior year. So it just really shows how intentional and caring Davidson people are. But yeah, I saw how real the honor code was on campus. It's also beautiful here, which really affects your mood as a student. It's still pretty warm out, which has been really nice. And especially in this pandemic, we've been able to, I had class outside this morning. Like I said, I had that cardio dance class outside. I met a friend to chat outside today. So that's been just such a perk throughout my years, but especially right now. So kind of all those things together, I knew I wanted a small college town that had access to a city. So the honor code, location, people, weather, all of it just really sealed the deal for me. And I'm so happy that I'm here.
And is that Dr. Keytrees?
Yes, it is Dr. Keytrees. She's amazing.
I had the opportunity to hear her talk about sides and talk about her research, I think probably when you were like a junior or senior in high school.
Okay.
And
yes.
I love the story of how sides came to be. Have you ever heard this, or have you probably know this better than I do, but the story that she told in this panel, I think this is just very indicative of Davidson. And you talk about the people here, and Abby, you referenced this as well, that professors choose to teach at Davidson because they want to work with students and they want to teach at a small school. So Dr. Keytrees was on sabbatical one semester, and so not teaching, and her son at the time was a second grader at Davidson Elementary School, and emailed his teacher and said, could I come in once a week and teach Spanish to my son's class? And her teacher said, sure, but you have to teach it to every second grade class. We can't have one class getting different instruction. So Dr. Keytrees said, well, okay, well, I don't have time to teach 5 elementary school classes Spanish every week, but maybe students would want to help. And so she emailed some of her Hispanic studies advisees and said, would anybody be interested in teaching, helping to teach second graders Spanish once a week? And as you can imagine, a lot of students responded and said, that sounds great, we'd love to help. And so it started purely as this sort of community service thing, but then she thought, this is really interesting, and ended up coming back to campus and teaching a class in second language acquisition for adolescents. And it was one of the few classes that actually filled up to that like 30-person limit. And then there were more students who were participating and just helping with the lesson planning and teaching the classes. And at the time, it was 2 days a week you're meeting in class, and the third day was teaching 1st through 5th graders Spanish at Davidson Elementary. And so it was this professor who was getting involved with the elementary school in town and then brought it back to her students, and was able to develop research and this curriculum and student organizations. And now the e-board is grant funded, which is awesome. I didn't know that. And so it really just sort of ties that idea of the faculty, the students, the community, that sense of collaboration and of belonging to place together. And it's one of my favorite, used to be one of my favorite stories to talk about. Now we have so many students that are a part of sides that I just have to get to let them talk about it, but it's a really, I think, neat part of the community.
That's really cool. I'm embarrassed to say I actually didn't know that full story, but I'm so glad I know it now. And she's still teaching a class. It's a little different, but it's called Teaching Spanish in Elementary School. And so you can either be involved by taking the course and then you teach in addition to that, or you can just be a volunteer. So I actually haven't taken the class, but I've just been a volunteer since my second semester here, which has been really cool and has helped me meet other students in the Hispanic Studies department. I love making friends in so many areas here. I've made so many friends through my classes, which I think is really special, just because we are like so integrate, like everyone likes to think, everyone likes to be involved in class, but then also be social and like have fun at the same time. But yeah, so I've met a lot of really cool people through the program, and Dr. Kitries is amazing. That story checks out.
So I see some questions starting to pop in to the Q&A, which is awesome. Please keep them coming. So one of the first ones, and this is a pretty common one, is about the pre-med program at Davidson and kind of how it works and why it's useful for students. So pre-med is a very popular program at Davidson. Here it is a track, it's not a major. So you can major in anything and be pre-med. You'll certainly see a lot of biology, chemistry, neuroscience majors. But one of my favorite statistics, over the last 3 years, we've had 4 studio art majors go on to medical school. So you really can major in anything and still be pre-med. There's an initial advising meeting during the first couple weeks of classes for all the first year students who are thinking that pre-med might be something that they want to pursue. But after that initial group advising meeting, everything else is really one-on-one. And you're working with either Dr. Nyla Mamoon, who heads our allied health advising program, or one of her assistants, one of her coworkers. And they work with you through every step of the process. So they make sure that you're taking the courses you need to fulfill medical school prerequisites and be prepared for the MCAT. So biology, chemistry, math, physics, psychology courses. They work with you in conjunction with the Career Development Center to make sure that you are getting summer internship and research opportunities and service opportunities that will bolster your med school application. Abby mentioned this when talking about the Charlotte region, but healthcare has become one of the biggest industries in Charlotte, and there are 2 major healthcare systems that are anchored in Charlotte, so 20 minutes away, and plenty of other hospitals in a pretty easy drive from campus, so places for us to be able to connect students. There are also family practices in Davidson and in the surrounding area that you can get connected with. So a lot of those in-person sort of physician shadowing and internship opportunities. Obviously the opportunity for research, and again, Abby mentioned this, but that's a big part of the student experience across the board, but certainly something that helps students applying to medical school. We also see a lot of our students, and with the encouragement of our advisors, double majoring or minoring in things that are more about those soft skills and focused more on communication, cross-cultural competency. We have a lot of pre-med students who are Hispanic studies majors or French and Francophone studies minors, because that's something that we found really helps our students excel in the med school application process. Having not just the anatomy and biology grounding, but having that ability to connect and work with patients. So those communication skills become really, really helpful. So our med school advisors then work with you on the med school application. They help you craft your essays, they write your recommendations, they help you prepare for your interviews. So for students who go through our pre-med advising, we have about a 90% admission rate into medical school. And every year, about 50 to 60 students will go into medical school from Davidson. So it's about 10% of our graduating class. So it's a fairly large program at Davidson and certainly successful. And those students end up at medical schools all around the US. Usually it's based on sort of geography and where students want to be as they finish medical school, but you'll see them sort of all over the place, but it's a great program. And then beyond sort of the traditional pre-med route, pre-physician's assistance programs, pre-veterinary school, pre-dental school. We've had some students who have pursued physical therapy and occupational therapy. So sort of the whole realm of health advising is under that umbrella, and something that I think Dr. Mamoon and her staff do a really great job of advising through. And I see a couple other questions starting to pop in. Do we limit the number of students who can apply to medical schools as a follow-up? We do not. So again, you have to go through the program, you have to meet sort of the requirements, make sure you're taking the right classes, you're performing well in those classes, but there's no limit to the number of students who can participate. There's no weed out classes. We have about 200 students that will start as, I'll say we have about 200 students that will go to that first advising meeting. The reason most of those students don't end up pursuing pre-med is they realize that their interest just lies somewhere else. I think every year there's at least one student who realizes they faint at the sight of blood. It's like, okay, maybe being a doctor is not the right route for you. But again, we see a lot of students then who go into public health and healthcare policy and healthcare advocacy, sort of in those medical adjacent fields. So it's totally open to students as long as you're putting in the work and you're participating.
And Mike, one thing just to add there,
Yeah.
I think actually if you are really interested in learning even deeper, at 8 p.m. Eastern is our pre-med and allied health specific session at Davidson. So there's going to be a panel here in about a half hour. So if you haven't had enough of us in this 45 minutes, I just wanted to mention that.
And if you're not already registered for that, I think registration is technically closed, but shoot us an email. So the first two letters of our first name and our last name at davidson.edu, and I can get you that link if you have another Zoom call in you today. Totally understand if not. And like most people at Davidson, Dr. Mamoon is happy to talk to you. It is the easiest part of my job at Davidson. I don't care who you talk to. And I see a couple other questions, but I'll just say this briefly. And I say this as somebody who grew up outside of Philadelphia. So I'm from right around King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. The Southern hospitality of Davidson as a college, as a town, the Charlotte region, is a little disarming at first. Like you walk down the street and people stop you and they're, hey, how's your day going? Like, good. Who are you? Why are you talking to me? What are you going to do with this information? But it's very genuine, and you should use that to your advantage as you're researching Davidson. I think Zoe used this word, but people here are kind. And as a prospective student, the faculty and staff, in addition to the students and the admissions folks like myself and Abby, are happy to talk with you. There's another question that's popped in the chat that I think is a great one, and maybe I'll let Zoe answer this to begin with, but to what degree is Charlotte a part of student life at Davidson? So I know kind of my answer and my thoughts, but Zoe, I'd like to hear your thoughts first.
Sure. I was just going to note, I am friends with a studio art major on the pre-med track. That is not just a statistic. She is doing it. She's prepping for dental school, so I guess pre-dental. But yeah, great question about Charlotte. So I will say it's about 25 to 30 minutes away. So people aren't necessarily going into Charlotte on a daily or necessarily weekly basis as a whole. Like we, stay in the Davidson community a lot during the week. But if you wanted to go in every weekend, you totally could. It's pretty much a straight shot on the highway. And it really just depends what you want your relationship to be with the city. I am not much of a city person, so I'll be honest, I haven't gone in a lot, but that's really by choice. But I have friends who go in more often. There are a lot of great restaurants there. I have been in to eat. We also sometimes have events hosted there. My eating house has had an event in Charlotte. We also, during orientation, had an event there. Also, the Union Board I mentioned earlier hosts CATS excursions, which are trips outside of Davidson on the weekends normally that are free of charge for students. And so I know last year they did a bunch of trips into Charlotte. They went and saw the National Tour of Aladdin. They saw the U.S. women's national soccer team play. They went to a concert of some sort. So things that are getting students off campus out into the world doing really fun things on the college's dime. I got to take a day trip to Asheville and tour the Biltmore on a Saturday, and I literally think I spent like $5 for a coffee and a muffin because I needed an extra little snack, but they covered lunch and the tour fees and the bus and everything. So definitely take advantage of that if you come to Davidson. There are signups for those trips. Also, like Abby was saying before, I think there are a lot of great opportunities for internships and volunteer things throughout the year in the Charlotte area. So we are not in the middle of nowhere. There's stuff going on if you are looking for more of those city opportunities. But yeah, it can really be whatever relationship you want it to be, is kind of my summary of it.
I think that's a good summary. I will also just throw out there, you are allowed to have a car on campus all 4 years. You certainly don't need to have a car. So you might choose to bring a car to campus as a first year, you might not, but you'll also have friends who do. About half of our students have a car on campus. And Zoe referenced this earlier, but I think it's another sort of good point about Davidson. Even as a first year student, you'll also be friends with sophomores, juniors, and seniors on campus. And it's something I always point out about a school like Davidson. And if with only 2,000 students, sometimes people are concerned about the size, but you really get to know 7 full class years of students. Because as a first year, you'll have friends who are sophomores, juniors, and seniors. By the time you're a senior, you'll have friends who are juniors, sophomores, first years. There's a lot of interaction between class years. I went to a high school that had 500 students in my graduating class, and very rarely did we interact with people outside of our grade. Unless you were in a particular organization with people. But at a place like Davidson, you really get access to those upperclassmen right away. And so for trips into Charlotte, things like that, definitely can be a great resource. There's also public transportation. Zoe mentioned the CATS excursion. She said one thing that I want to really highlight. She said doing these trips on the college's dime. This is something I tell everybody. Anything you want to do at Davidson, make Davidson pay for it. There's always going to be funding available. I heard one of our students a couple months ago use this phrase that I love. She said that Davidson is a school that invests back in its students. And so if it is, buying a ticket to go see the U.S. women's soccer team play at Bank of America Stadium, if it is covering research costs, if it's covering travel costs, any sort of internship you have, Davidson will help cover those cost of living expenses. One of my favorite grants we have is called the Meet My World grant. If you're friends with an international student at Davidson, we'll pay for you to go home with them for 3 weeks over break and cover your costs. We have a student who works in our office who spent last summer interning at a museum in New York City and went to the Career Development Center and explained what he wanted to do. And because he was applying for a grant to help cover his funding, they said, okay, well, how much money do you think you need to live in New York City for the summer? He said, I think I can do it for $6,000. And they said, okay, here's 7 just to be safe. So the college wants to make sure that you're being supported in your interests, and for you to be, like I said, to stay busy while you're at Davidson. The other part of our location that we haven't talked about as much that maybe we should talk about briefly is the Lake Norman region of North Carolina. And we were talking about this right before everyone kind of logged on, actually. But we are right near Lake Norman, which is the largest lake in the state, and it's just 5 miles from campus. Or I should say, the lake's actually closer. We own property that we call our lake campus. That's just 5 miles from our main campus. And so when you think about Davidson as a location, when you look at college guidebooks, and they divide 6,000 colleges in the country into 3 categories, we're all either considered urban, suburban, or rural colleges. Davidson is usually considered suburban, which is true in our immediate surrounding with the town of Davidson, but we have very easy access to those urban resources through Charlotte, and then to the more rural settings and opportunities because we're close to Lake Norman and we're close to the mountains in North Carolina. So maybe I'll turn it over to Zoe again, but do you want to talk a little bit about kind of Lake Campus and some of the more outdoor opportunities around Davidson as well?
Sure, I'd love to. So like Mike said, we have a lake campus. It's pretty close drive away. You can't walk there, but it's really easy to get there, and you're definitely gonna have a friend who's gonna wanna help you get there if you don't have a car. But it's a great place to spend time. There's a little beach area and a little peninsula that goes out into the water. You can swim. We have paddle boards and kayaks that you can rent. This semester, which I'm really hoping they'll continue, they've been doing some of those PE classes out there. So I've done like deep stretch yoga out by the lake. Like, how amazing does that sound? And so I hope they'll continue that. But also you can just go hang out with your friends. There's also a beautiful sunset view there. One of my favorite Davidson memories is when I was with some friends I had just kind of recently met. We went out to dinner and we were driving home, and there are beautiful sunsets here in Davidson, and we saw it kind of setting over the lake on the highway, and we were like, do we go to Lake Campus to watch this? And we did it, and it was so fun, and we ran to catch the end of it. I got a beautiful picture, and it was just a really happy memory. And then we actually went back. This sounds like it's planned, but it's not. I went to a Union Board pumpkin painting event. Yeah, so that was really fun. Also, especially with the Charlotte question, to the other side of it, if you are more of an outdoorsy nature person, we have Davidson Outdoors, which is a great organization. And they sponsor trips pretty frequently, maybe weekly, to go out backpacking, camping, whitewater rafting, hiking, paddleboarding, different things like that. And all of the trip leaders are students. So after first year, you could get involved in that way, but anyone is welcome to sign up for those trips. And they're a great way to get out and do something really fun for the weekend on a Saturday, whatever it might be. We also have Odyssey programs, which are pre-orientation, which are through Davidson Outdoors, and they actually spend their first night at Lake Campus. So there are a lot of opportunities to interact with Lake Campus, and I definitely recommend that you do because it's one of my favorite parts about our location for sure.
So we're starting to run out of time a little bit. So if there's any last questions, throw them in the chat. We might have time to answer one more. But I will also put in a plug for some of the other virtual visit programs that Davidson has until we're able to welcome people to campus in a more typical way. If you go to the Davidson website, go to the visit page, we've got virtual information sessions, virtual guided campus tours, Ask a Wildcat sessions, which are just Q&As with current students. All of these events are live. Nothing is pre-recorded. There's no videos. There's no PowerPoints. It's all opportunities to hear from members of the Davidson community. We also, and Abby referenced this, the ongoing Discover Davidson series, which has members of our faculty and student life staff talking with prospective students. We really want to be accessible to you to the extent we can be as we're going through this. So please feel free to reach out to sign up for those events. You'll also get a follow-up email after this, depending on where you live in Pennsylvania, with either my contact information or Abby's contact information. Please feel free to reach out to either of us. It's what we're here for. Our email addresses are pretty easy to find on the website as well. But hopefully this is going to be, one step in a broader conversation that you get to have with people from Davidson. I think hopefully what you're taking away from this is that Davidson is a really tight-knit community that is filled by students and faculty who are smart, who are driven, who are kind. It's a place with a lot of mutual trust, mutual affirmation, a really deep sense of collaboration between our students and the other members of our community. And we would love for you to continue to learn more about it and hear more of those perspectives. Like I said, it's the easiest part of my job. I don't care who you talk to on campus. Zoe, I don't know if you have any kind of final words or final thoughts to share.
Sure. I would just plug following the Davidson Daily on Instagram, the Davidson Daily, all one username. It's a great account. It really helped me actually know that I wanted to come to Davidson. I would race home every day after high school and check to see if there were new posts. I'm not kidding. It's a little bit embarrassing. Or like watch their student takeovers sometimes on the stories. And it's run, I believe, by a senior admissions fellow. So it's really by students for students, which is really great. And I'd also say, please feel free to email me as well. My email is ZOBOCK, just my first two letters of my first name, my last name, @davidson.edu. Happy to answer any questions if you have them and you think of them later or didn't want to ask them to the full group. But it was really nice to join you all tonight.
And Abby, do you have any closing remarks?
I actually was going to mention the social media as well, but I just encourage you to continue to get to know us. We covered a lot of ground, and so if there was something that you want us to delve deeper into, we're happy to help.
Well, thank you very much, Abby, Zoe, and Mike. This has been a very informative session. Students, when you exit and close your window, there will be a quick survey of 4 questions for you to fill out. Remember to sign up for more sessions or to listen to the recording, and really take advantage of reaching out to Abby, Mike, and Zoe. They are there to help you and answer questions about the college process at a liberal arts school or Davidson in particular. I know them and I know they'll help you. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for a great panel.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.